I would like to say a few words, but as everybody in my group knows, I'm not a man of a few words. So we'll save my words for another day. We do have important guests with us today who are on a timeline, and how lucky we are to have them on board. In no particular order, I'd like to say hi to Frank Markovich. Frank not only is a distinguished looking gentleman, but he's ascended to the highest level of the PCR. And we're dazzled by his meteoric rise there, obviously based on merit. The guy whose huge shoes he has to fill is also with us, Chris. But can we start with you, Frank? Say hello to the group. You're well known to many of us, but nevertheless, we'd love to hear your dulcet tones.
Well, I have a couple things to say. First of all, thank you. I got this because Chris was moved up to a director in the NMRA, and he moved to Austin, Texas, abandoned us, although he's here. And the board voted me to become president. I was vice president. I'm an MMR. Background is part of my layout. I've been building models. I've written up what I've done, but building since I was 7 years old and trained since I was about 18, 19 years old.
So like 25 years.
Yeah. And I want to also bring up the convention. I know Chris is going to talk about it, but in the last couple of weeks, Earl and myself nominated Arms Twisted to head the Modeler Showcase. So I want to talk about that just a minute because we need models. It's a chance to show projects you've been working on Rails to the Bay. We want anybody who went to the PCR in Fresno, the online, saw 4 or 5. In fact, Ed had one on there, we want 5 to 7 minutes. You can do still photos, you can have a video and talk through it. And if you're interested, I mean, it doesn't have to be a 100-point contest model. It can be something you're working.
Yes.
Be an email, because we're still setting things up. I can give you more information and tell you how to load it. We want to keep it to no more than 7 minutes, and you have to commit to also being available for when it's shown to answer questions after. There will be two-hour sessions for the Modelers Clinic, and so we have maybe 30 to 40 models we can do. So if interested, please contact me or Earl, and we can give you more information. It doesn't have to be, this is another thing, it doesn't have to be like a model like a structure or a rolling stock. It could be a section of layout that you've done something on that would be worth sharing with other people. So excellent. My email is, you can look on the PCR call board, but you can email me at frank@frankmarkovich.com. Thank you.
I bet Frank, I'm like a bunch of people here. I consider myself a good modeler. There's some things I'm particularly good at. I've never entered a contest. I've never spent a huge amount of time on any one project. How do we encourage people who are in that category to come across the line and bare their souls in their models?
Well, one thing is, the first time I entered a contest, the first model I entered, I think I got 35 points, which, there's a possible of 125. But what's really good is when you show your models and you get feedback, it helps you for the next model to improve. And it's a challenge, and a lot of people don't like entering contests. That's fine. This is actually a chance to show off your modeling work without being judged at all.
That's a good way to frame it. Anything else from you, Frank?
Pardon me?
Anything else from you?
No, that's it.
That's a good
Thank
overview.
you.
Well, congratulations on your position. We really look forward to your success and playing along. So thank you for that. And with that said, let's turn to Chris, who's probably feeling a great lightning of passing the load to Frank. But Chris, you've been elected as an ambassador and a director at the National NMRA, which you can do from Austin. And tell us a little bit about your journey. And I think you're going to talk about the convention, which is right around the corner.
Yes, well, thank you for the time to speak today, and really a sincere thank you to Frank for taking the mantle at PCR, because it's not something he asked for. You know, the move that I announced in January to the sort of insiders group there was, you know, not something that anyone wanted. So I really appreciate him. Frank and I have worked very closely over the past 2 years as president and vice president. So it should just be a seamless transition, and he's going to do great things, I know. So thanks to Frank.
Thank you, Chris.
My pleasure. So howdy to everyone from Austin. I'm not sure, Paul, now that I've started to receive preliminary minutes and action items from the National Board of Directors, I'm not sure it's a lightening of the load, but we'll see. The director position starts July 2nd. You know, in that position, I'm supposed to have broad representation of all of North America, not just PCR, but everyone should feel free to contact me at any time with any concerns you have about things going on at the national level, changes you'd like to see, and so forth. The board of directors is really undergoing a change in terms of the generation of leadership and interest in things like digital publication and virtual events. And so I think it's going to be a great coming period for our association. And I just look forward to serving you for 3 years in that position. So please stay in touch and let me know what the concerns are in PCR as we move forward. I also wear the hat of publicist of the National Convention. And so I do want to share some developments with you about that. I'm going to pop up just some very brief information on my screen. Most important thing to do is to be sure that you have the that you know where the website is for convention information. And I'm going to see if I can. I'll try to drop a link into the chat a little later after I stop screen sharing. But there it is, right on your screen. It's easy to find. And we put regular updates there as materials are added. This convention is not your teenage son's virtual event. We have 5 days, almost 80 hours of content planned, and the response has been incredible from both layout owners and clinicians. We currently have 70 video clinics booked, with about a third of them pre-recorded already, with recording sessions going on every day from now until the end of May. We're planning to have all of the clinics pre-recorded by June 1st, so we can do editing and quality control on them to ensure good presentations. So all the clinics you'll see during the week of July 6th will be pre-recorded, but the clinicians will be available for live Q&A and chat afterwards. We're doing it this way in order to guarantee a high quality of the lighting and resolution of the video, and the sound, so you can see and hear everything. So we think this is a great advance over some of the other virtual events that have been done. We also have 30 layout tour videos already available online. If you go to the main website link and click on layout tours, you'll see that. And you can watch those now for free. And there's some great layouts there, some that you probably haven't seen before. When you watch those videos, you're going to get excited about what you see, and we think that you're going to want to talk to the owners of the layouts live to ask questions about how they achieved a particular effect, lessons learned, things they would do differently, how they operate the layouts, all of those sorts of questions. You'll be able to do that live at the convention after their videos are played as part of the convention content. Next, we've just recently added the Modeler Showcase, which Frank has described. So please consider what you have that would be worth showing. well-known actor and modeler, Santa Fe modeler, and owner of a section of a short line down in New Mexico, Michael Gross, has pre-recorded a keynote presentation for us, which will be available. It's excellent. I've seen it already. For those of you who didn't see Michael's keynote, he did one in 2017 at our PCR convention in Bakersfield, and talked about his childhood growing up with a grandfather who was in railroading, and his home was located within, I guess, walking or bicycling distance of 10 different railroads in the Chicago area. So he's been involved with trains all his life and has some really interesting things to say. We also have SIG meetings planned of the same type that you'd have at the national convention in person, and social hours set up. So that's sort of an overview of the content that we have. We have online reservations, online registration set up at the website. So here you're looking at the homepage of the website. There's an easy link for registration here and also over on the left. If you click on layout tours, you'll see a list of all the layouts that we'll be showing during the convention. And these links are live to YouTube recordings that you can watch now. Many of these have been professionally produced by TSG Multimedia, thanks to John for all of his layout visits over the years to produce these. And some are new to PCR. You may not have seen these because they're outside the area, or the owners did not previously have a pro video available. So that's layout tours. For clinics, we have 43 clinics listed on the website currently. Some of the clinicians have been a bit slow to give us detailed descriptions, so all 70 are not listed here. But there's a rich variety here to choose from. We continue to have volunteer opportunities available, which I believe Denny may chat a bit about, or excuse me, Sid. And we have our online registration link here with PayPal available for online payment. For further updates, if you don't want to check the website, if you are a Facebook user, we have a Facebook group called NMRA 2021 Rails by the Bay that you can add to your likes to receive updates on Facebook. If you prefer the Model Railroad Hobbyist Forum, we have an open thread over there as well, which I write, and we regularly post updates, and there's Q&A and posts from people around the country. So a couple of other reasons to attend. We're expecting worldwide attendance. Because it's virtual, we're not limited to people who can actually physically, make it to Santa Clara, typically from the US and a few from overseas. So there's going to be all kinds of new people to meet. And so with that, it's going to be a distinctively different experience for other virtual events that you may have attended. So that's the updates I have for you today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about the convention. Anything you're thinking of at all or feel it's been unanswered so far, please chime in.
Well, I have one thing to say, which is that it's not that I have something to say about this, but I have recorded a clinic and a layout tour with John A., who I've forgotten what his last name is, but he did a lot of, yeah, and he did a terrific, very professional job. So I have no complaints whatsoever. I'm just saying, good job.
Thank you, Bill. I will pass that on to him.
Chris,
Yeah,
help you with your,
I did my own. It's not very good.
Steve?
Chris, with your move to Austin, to make yourself more comfortable there, tell them that you're really happy to be at the home of the Sooners.
I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, I'm surrounded by UT people, so it's a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
We probably want to spend a second and emphasize the volunteering opportunity and maybe even the volunteering need. It's a really neat website where you can go and see the number of available slots to volunteer. I was there this morning. It looks like there's still a significant number of volunteer slots. And what's really interesting about a virtual convention is the opportunity to also volunteer and be virtual. You don't have to go there. There's a lot of things to do just to help run things or be a moderator. I signed up to be an MC for a number of days because I'm a world-class MC. No, I'm joking. But someone had to do it. So if you're intrigued by this, you may want to surf. And Cynthia has set up an area where you're not sure how you want to volunteer, but you want to check it out, where you can put your name in there. And I think she'll circle back with you. So it looks to me as an outsider like there's quite a need for volunteers, and it's the best year ever to volunteer and not have to be inconvenienced very much.
Yes, I just put a link to the sign up area for volunteers in the chat here on Zoom. And it's sort of a separate sign up site that we're using that Sid has set up. So
it's very slick. Yeah, it's very slick. Yeah. So please consider volunteering, because it looks like there's going to be some openings, and usually that falls on staff members to fill in the openings, and that's a lot to ask of them. So there we are. If there are no more questions for Chris, we'll thank you also for taking time out of your day. Central time, I think, is that right?
Yes, 1:20 here.
Yeah,
No problem.
1:20 in Austin. Excellent. Enjoy your day, and thank you so much for checking in and for everything you've done for PCR so far.
Thank you, Paul. Have a great meeting, everyone.
A pleasure. We will. As we rocket forward on my agenda, I've got Denny next to talk about 2022. Do I have that right, Denny? Are you prepared to tell us a little bit about the 2022?
I am. Yeah,
Lovely.
Cliff's not here. He's out playing trains at WRM because they're getting ready to open up finally on June 5th. So if anybody wants to go out and ride trains, you can do that. The 2022 convention, we're doing okay. We already have 12 people registered. Set up, so we're just kind of now waiting and start doing the fine tuning things. I know we have a number of clinics already signed up, and the only drawback we've had so far is we had planned on doing a convention building, and we had been working with a gentleman who does 3D printing. Sent him all of our pictures, drawings, measurements, the whole bit. He came back with something that was close. And when we asked him about making some fine tuning to it and whatever, he refused to do so and now will not work with us. So
All in a day's work.
we will not have a convention building this year. Very unusual depot because it's all stone. But unfortunately, that's how it goes. So we've put a notice up on the website. We've also put a notice up on the registration page that there will not be a convention building, and we apologize for any inconvenience. So other than that, we're doing well.
Great. Questions for Denny about 2022? Sounds like that's a no. So thank you, Denny, for that update.
You're welcome.
Next up on my agenda is Ed Marin, but we need to talk about Ed Marin before we give him the floor. And I believe this is an announcement, right? That Ed Marin very deservedly has been named the Red Member of the Year. So are we applauding? Yes, Ed, are you there?
I didn't get a check yet, though.
Well, in fact, I'm super excited about the prize. It's a 21-day trip, rail fanning trip in South America, all expenses paid.
Okay. So yes, continue.
You took that routinely as if you've made that trip many times.
Yeah.
Good. So having revealed that, Ed's going to talk, I believe, a little bit about the just passed Sugar Pine Convention, a little bit of a debrief about how that went.
Well, I'll give it a shot. In case folks don't know, I was heavily involved with this whole thing because of an accident of history. I was appointed to be the director of the Daylight Division on sort of an emergency basis. We had trouble finding candidates interested in the job. And I thought being the director, I should probably peek in on the convention committee meetings, Zoom meetings, and lo and behold, next thing I knew, I was part of the committee. I don't know, unofficially, I don't know how it happened actually. So I was witness to this very difficult, stressful, and painful transition from planning a standard in-person convention, the kind that we're all familiar with, to having to switch gears with only a few weeks left to an online convention. And fortunately, we had some help from some of the folks that were kind of getting ready to put together the national that's upcoming, and they wanted to take the advantage of the situation in a positive way, to work out some kinks and try some things out ahead, so that they'd learn from it. And that's what we wound up with. And it looks like it came off very well. There's some positive feedback from a survey, and we were all pretty exhausted, from all these practice runs and stuff that, were kind of scary at first because nobody knew what the heck was going on, but it's just amazing how it all fit in. We had a mini version of what Chris presented to you for the national coming up. We had clinics that were pre-recorded. We had a thing called Meet the Modelers, which was kind of a show and tell. We had door prizes, which was worked out a way to do door prizes in a virtual convention. I actually won one and got it delivered. It was just the other day. And we had a keynote speaker. I mean, it was all very familiar, and it was set up not like the Zoom meeting that we're having now, but in something similar to what you see in a lot of large professional meetings, which I've seen a couple of them recently also, and as well this summer. And that is, there's actually two settings. One is the standard kind of webinar thing where you're watching a clinic, you have, nobody sees you or anything like that, so you can kind of act out if you want, and but then there's questions and answers and through chat type things. And then after the fact, you had the opportunity to go over to the main hall, which is more of a standard Zoom environment, and go to a breakout room and interact with the presenter directly, like we are now with the pictures and so forth. And that was really a nice format. So I'm looking at the faces here. I think the majority of people that are at this meeting right now were also in attendance, if you want to call it that, at that meeting. So you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that weren't there, it just kind of gives you a flavor. But very successful, and I expect that this summer we're going to have an even more successful time because of the expanded format and the fact that everybody's more experienced in getting things going and working and having everything happen smoothly and so forth. So that's kind of my overview. And I'm decompressing now, so I'm coming back to normal, but it was quite an experience.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions or comments for Ed? Congratulations on your award and your trip to South America.
Thank you. Yeah.
Take
Bring
pictures.
back some bananas if you want.
Yeah, take pictures. Okay, so we're going to turn now to some quick reports, various members of the RED staff. Before we do that, I do want to say, taking a step back, The only good thing about me becoming superintendent is that all the old staffers are staying on board and they're terrific. I could say as a new participant in the staff that these are jobs that are being done well. They're being done unselfishly. They tend to be thanks. And I think we really should virtually note and applaud the legacy staff. And thank you for staying on board. And we'll go through them quickly. First up is Giuseppe with the director's report. You're here with us, I think, Giuseppe? Perhaps not. It'll be a brief director's report. Well, we'll come back to that. Dave, Chief Clerk. No, Dave?
The only thing
Oh,
I
there
have
you
to
are.
report, the only thing I have to report is that we've received a check for $55 to add to the account, which brings our balance up to 5914 exactly.
It sounds like excellent timing on that receipt.
Yeah. No, I have AT&T and that thing has been flaky ever since we got it. So I think this next week we'll be going to someone else that's a little more responsible in terms of networking.
There you go. Anything else, Dave?
No, that's it.
Terrific.
Actually,
Gus,
I do have something else. When Frank George moved, he gave the club a considerable number of videos and other such items, which I haven't quite finished inventory. So I need to cost it out. Then I'll have a report on that
excellent.
later.
Excellent. Thank you. Next up, Gus, membership report. Gus, we're happy to have you in good health with us today.
Yeah, we have 110 active members right now. Well, maybe not active, but members. Our list is a little higher than that, but 2 people have moved to Idaho that haven't been dropped off our list yet. So it's there. And I would like to make a comment. This is not the red division. This is the RED, Redwood Empire Division. And I don't know, that just always grates on me when someone calls it the red. It's not the red, okay? Because it's not the Purser or the Coast. It is the Coast Division. It is the Daylight Division. It is the Sierra Division. Then it's the Redwood Empire Division. Okay, I'm gonna just get that off my chest.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the violator, but I'll make sure to do better if I am. So thank you, Gus. Scott, handing off the superintendency to me, but thank goodness staying responsible for the call board, which it's unanimous that it's excellent and it's hard work. Tell us about the call board, where you are in your rotation and upcoming stuff.
Okay, we have a new call board, a spring call board coming up. I'm taking requests or taking submissions from anybody who would like to submit an article. Of course, we'll have officers' reports, convention reports from Denny and Cliff, and we also have the show and tell. We'll be posting the results of the show and tell from this meeting, but I encourage anybody else who has not participated in the online version to consider submitting something to the call board as well. That seems to be one of the most popular aspects of the call board. So I would encourage anybody to please consider sending something to me. It's usually just like 1 or 2 pictures and kind of a short description of what you're presenting, and you know, there it goes. We have the deadline for submissions is Friday, May 21st, and then I'll be posting or emailing, I should say, the call board the following week. That's always a little open, depending on what I'm doing that week and how things are going, but I try and get it out at least that week, probably toward the end of the week. And I'll be sending out an email notice as well about the upcoming call board, probably Monday or Tuesday. So that's it.
Excellent. Any questions for Scott about that? We've got 4 or 5 show and tells coming up, and some of that might be cannon fodder for the upcoming call board, one would hope. I don't have on my agenda any comments from you, Al, unless you want to say a few words. I want to make sure to acknowledge your service. You've been instrumental, clearly, and have helped me with my transition, so thank you for that. Any comments or thoughts that you have today, Al, or Vern, for that matter? Vern's also been very involved.
No, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you, Paul, for all of the good work that you're doing. Thank you.
You know, unless the Georgia thing goes against me, I think I'm here for a while. Yeah, thank you.
And I got nothing.
Yeah, well, that's what we've come to expect. So thank you.
And
Thank
I've
you.
got lots of it.
You always live up to expectations, Vern. Thank you. I've got the next item on my agenda, member introductions. I don't know what that is. Scott, can you help? Do we want to go around the horn here and have people introduce themselves, or should we perhaps rocket forward and do show and tell?
You know, we just kind of go around and everybody kind of introduces who they are and kind of where their modeling expertise lies, what they do with model railroading, and then so that's it.
Good. If we want to do that now, that's great. I think we'll keep it brief because we got some great presentations coming up, including one from me, which is less great. I'll happily start. Like a lot of people, I've been doing various modeling for, I'm 60 now, so 53 years or something. I grew up in the East Coast. I was a Penn Central rail fan as a teen. People think that's pretty wacky to love the Penn Central, which I did because I didn't know anything else. I modeled the Penn Central for many years until we decided, as part of a midlife crisis, to do something completely different. And my amazing collaborators and I are building a layout in Novato based on the Central Vermont Railroad in 1956. The only thing that's particularly noteworthy about that story is that that's a prototype that none of us knew one damn thing about. So when you make a decision to, put a pin in the map and just do something, there are various reasons that we ended up on the Central Vermont, but we've all late in life had a chance to embrace this cool prototype and learn the towns. Quite a number of us have had a chance to visit, and learn about places that either we hadn't been or we had been for other reasons. And it's really a neat opportunity late in life to just do something completely different, which I would strongly recommend. We're having a blast. Who's next? Should we go? Should I MC this part? Scott Lockhart, you want to go next?
Okay, I'm Scott Lockhart. I model the Santa Fe. I grew up in Chicago, and so the Santa Fe, at least in the 50s and 60s, was a big presence there. I remember the ads on TV, Santa Fe all the way, and I got started again into model railroading probably maybe 15 years ago, and have been collecting models of the Santa Fe war bonnets color scheme, different engines that wear the war bonnet color scheme. Although I've been kind of branching out into ON30 lately. Did my first model, and I may submit that for approval sometime down the road here. And so that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And I'm just rotating around my screen in order. The next I have Tom. Tom, I don't know your last name.
Tom Kibbe.
Thank you.
And I'm kind of an oldie and newbie. I'm probably one of the oldest of you guys sitting here, but I'm on both the Sonoma Short Lines and the Coastal Valley Lines clubs. And I'm in the early stages of planning I grew up in Connecticut, Paul, so, and I'm in the process of working on I don't think it'll be a proto, but I'll be on the other side of the Connecticut River Valley from your Vermont lines.
Nice.
I also spent 30 plus years in Chicago, so I'm wrestling back and forth with which one, but I think I'll be back in New England.
We love it there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. We'll talk about interchange when you get up and going. Next on my rotation is Dave Crozier. Dave, couple comments for us?
Yes, I have first of all, let me say I have some show and tell if there's time, so.
Good.
I have a fictitious model railroad, which I think is a tremendous advantage. That way I can research and build exactly what I want. Here is 1936 that I modeled, and I chose that because I'm totally a steam operator, and so that's HO, and it's in Sebastopol, and that's what you see behind me is a vertical staging that many of the guys have operated. It works flawlessly, and so it's not just showcasing my steam locomotives, but it's also you can run the consist in and out. So that's pretty much, I guess.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dave. I don't want to forget Vern as I muscle through my top row. Vern, a couple of comments for us.
Very good.
I have a proto freelance railroad in Eastern Washington, Spokane. There's already 6 railroads there. I have written a history of how my 7th railroad came to be there. The origin is in the 19th century. The present of the railroad is 1944. It's HO. It's all steam, although it runs better with diesels. I've not been able to do much with it recently due to a lot of things breaking down at home, and this was going to be my big pitch this last week, and I was without my computer and just tearing my hair out. But
you did a good job.
We have a lot of traffic. I can move about 100 cars per operating session. Not operating at the moment. Not ready for layout photographs, but hoping to get there. And it's crowded. It can be run with 4 to 6 people who need to be friendly with each other. There's not much room. And it's been written up in the Layout Design Journal for some of the innovative content that I have that expands the layout outside the room for interchange with the outside world, for logging camp, for a mining camp, and there are other innovations there. So if you're really interested, it's issue 68, I think, of the Layout Design Journal. Over and out.
Speed. Al, can you give us some comments?
Sure. I have a very small switching layout in my 1-car garage. And I use a piece of software that creates switch lists and or waybills to operate the, it's an industrial spur that I call Al Spur. And I'm hoping to get it.
How'd you come up with that?
Really tough.
So I'm hoping to get it ready for it's a small area, so one or 2 people can operate. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you, Al. Bill Kaufman.
I model the State Belt in San Francisco. It's about a 12 by 12 layout. A number of you have operated there, so I don't know how much I need to explain all of that, but it's great fun. It's set up so that, you know, we need 6 people, and we'll probably start up again in June. I get, that's about it. I work on the Central Vermont that Paul's building, and once upon a time, I've filled a bunch of these slots. I used to do branch line, used to be the vice president of the NMRA, used to be a whole bunch of things. So
Terrific. Thanks, Bill. Yes, yes, a great layout. Gus.
Okay. Born and raised in Marin County. Lived a few other places, but mostly stuck around Marin County. The NWP was in the backyard, actually the backyard of my house in Corte Madera. And so I didn't go very far, but I decided with some help from Jim Providenza to pick a particular railroad to model rather than just a generic piece of railroad. So I picked the California Western, and I modeled the California Western. The one thing I did not do was pick an era. Anything that the California Western did from the beginning, when they were the Union Lumber Company Railroad, to the current day, when they're kind of defunct, is okay. So I have diesels and I have steamers and I have all sorts of stuff. And I've developed a schedule. And one of these days we'll get back to obviously operating there. But right now you can barely get in the room.
Fair enough. Thank you, Gus. Next up is the gentleman who stole Beverly's iPad. John, I believe. Is that you, John?
Oh,
John, thank you. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm a third generation NWP person. I grew up on the railroad, worked for them. And so that's my main interest. I have a little layout here in Santa Rosa that represents from Willits up over Ridge Hill and down to Ukiah. I always look forward to having layout tours. I love to show off my layout. Anyway, is this a good time for show and tell?
We're going to save show and tell a little bit if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll circle back as time allows, but thank you, Ron.
Okay.
Stephen Lewis, I have you next.
Yes. I model HO. My railroad interest is Newfoundland Railway because I have a son and all our grandkids now live there. I'm a member of Highballers, and my main activities are with modular groups, Coastal Valley Lines, and most recently, and where most of my activity has been with Sonoma Short Line. Our main activity each year has been a Christmas show in December. It runs for three-day weekends. We pull 1,500 to 2,000 people each year. Some of you are going to be hearing from me because I think Sonoma Short Line is in some kind of crisis. Mainly people are getting older. We have, I think, 2 in the hospital. I'm not sure even when they'll come out of the hospital or whether they'll be able to participate. And I'm hoping we can get to an 8th and a 9th year with Sonoma Short Line at Christmas time, but more on that later.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen. I've got Peter Barnes next. Mr. Barnes.
Hi, I'm another New Englander. Grew up near the Boston and Maine and Boston and Albany and New York Central and just outside Boston.
Sorry, what town? I have to ask.
Newton.
I'm a Needham boy, so.
Needham, okay, a little further out.
Yeah, not much. Neighbors. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So my background, my layout is European, which is, so I don't have a lot of things in common, except I've got there's still trains, it's HO, centered in Bavaria, it's fictitious, in Bavaria, between Bavaria and Tyrol, along the Austrian-German border. It's 3 rail, made with a European Lionel called Märklin, and so I'm trying to make it work as an operational layout, and it works fair on that account, and that's what I'm doing and having a great time doing it.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Steve Skold.
I haven't done anything since the virus started. I've been in the hospital several times, and I can tell you all about my problems there, but some of you are tired of hearing it, and the rest of you don't even want to hear about it. On evenings between 5 and 6:30, my wife and I run what we call a sanity hour, and we have a few friends that come over to keep each other going during this bad time. So that's about the extent of my activities.
Fair enough. And the good news is the world's looking up. So thank you, Steve. Next up, John.
Yeah, I have a show and tell today, which will explain a lot of my interest. Some of you already know some of the stuff I do, and I'll talk more about that. I have a small layout. I live in a mobile home with my wife and 2 daughters, so my layout is not that big, which you saw last time. Thank you.
Terrific. We'll see you at Show and Tell. Ed Marin, member of the year, member of the decade. We can't hear you, Ed.
Time is short, and I have a complex biography, so I'll just leave it at, let's see, in December 1970, I hitchhiked from New York City to San Francisco. And then after that, and since 91, I've been obsessed by the NWP. The last couple of years, this obsession has narrowly focused on the Petaluma Riverfront, where I conquered Water Street, and now I'm embroiled in a classic battle with the Petaluma D Street drawbridge, which I hope turns out well. So that's it.
Let me ask you, December 1970, did you have an afro?
No, I just had a lot of unruly long hair.
Unruly long hair. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Thank you for that. We need the color. Yes, thank you. Doug Smith.
Hi, I'm original New Englander, also just west of Providence, a little town called Greenville.
What's going on? I had no idea. Boy, this is a great revelation for me that we're well represented here in the Redwood Empire District.
It's the Great Migration that started in the 50s.
Look at us. Look at us. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, got started in railroading real young. We moved from the Rhode Island area down to Bristol, Tennessee. And Norfolk and Western came in from the Northeast, and Southern Railway went out from the Southwest. And I just got enamored with those steam locomotives and diesel locomotives, and haven't found anything I like enough better to switch. So there I am. Had a layout in Danville just before I moved up to Santa Rosa a year and a half ago, and have a bunch of stuff down in what's going to be the train room, but I haven't gotten anything built up there yet. Lots of plans and electrons zooming around and having great fun. I've been in NMRA since 2014, I think. I was active in Coast Division through all the chairs down there before I moved up here. And helping out Cliff and Denny a little bit on the convention, looking for operating layouts. If anybody's got a layout they might want to throw the switch on, I'll be hitting everybody up individually, collectively over the next year or so.
Excellent. And when you start building, Doug, just make it clear, you can't do the Central Vermont.
No.
Yeah. We can't take any competition. We picked the railroad that would be competition free. So, go a different direction if you don't mind.
I will. It's a little down south.
Appreciate that. In my rotation, Joan's up next. Hi, Joan.
Hello, everybody. Called HO. I've been in Coastal Valley Lines Modular Club for, I think, going on 25 years. And I also hang out on Wednesday nights with the Highballers. It's a lot of fun. I'm also building a home layout. It's a lot of work, but a lot of fun. And more recently, been painting backdrops and just having a ball with that. That's about it.
It's a great skill. Thank you, Joan. David Norris.
Oh, hi. I'm David Norris. I'm Fairfield. Hope you all can hear me now. And
Yes.
I remember for many decades, I was far easternmost member of the Redwood Empire as far as, the geographical location, until I believe somebody from Coast Division moved to Rio Vista, which another, is 24 miles east of Fairfield. And now they're the farthest easternmost member of the Redwood Empire. So, but anyway, as far as show and tell, like all I've been working on is, well, I'll get to that later on. But I model mostly, I don't have a home layout at home because I've done, well, you know, I saw most people my age and we have health problems and so forth, and I've had my share of them in the also the pandemic. Recently, I built something at, you know, Northwestern Pacific, and here it is at JP7, and I've already gotten to a little bit of flack from it because it was in the cab. Who was operating it? A female. I had a little 5-year-old girl that says, "Oh, look, a girl pulling a train."
Good for you.
Oh, darn. I'm not ashamed of having a female operate the locomotive. You know, well, I've seen it in real life many times. But anyway, that's what I put in there. You know, I wanted to put a crew in the locomotive, and that's what I did. Only other thing I've been doing is building containers for my for double stack rail cars. I have there's some they're 40 footers, high cube and standard cube, but you see them side by side. I'll get to that later on. But anyway, that's what I've been doing. You know, getting cardstock, you know, and gluing it on the on wooden forms, and so that's what I've been doing. That's another project of mine. Nothing to do with the Northwestern Pacific, because not going to see stack trains in there. But I have not seen any yet. But other than that, here I am, you know, part of the RED, or the Redwood Division. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Dan Obermeyer.
Grew up in Idaho and Montana, so that's where my railroading interests lie. And I'm slowly building a multi-deck layout. The last couple of show and tells, I showed parts of it. Haven't done much lately, mainly because it was time to paint the house. So that's occupying my time, but it's moved to California about 35 years ago. That's about when I met Vern. So found out we have a kinship in the Northern Pacific, and that's part of the Key Railroad, along with the one that paralleled it through the part of Montana I'm modeling, which is the Milwaukee Road. So slowly working my way through it. Hope maybe next meeting I'll have something more to show. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. Jim Providenza.
Oh, well. So I born and raised in the Bay Area, 3 years of purgatory as a teenager in Southern California, and other than that, back in the Bay Area. Modeled the prototype freelance Santa Cruz Northern. Many of you have been there and operated on it. Also modeled the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes out in the backyard. People wonder why that takes so long, and I tell them it takes as long as I want it to take. You know, I'm not in a particular hurry. And, you know, I write articles and do modeling and write a quarter of the article for the Bulletin. Other than that, you know, here I am.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. David Lightfoot.
Well, I don't have much modeling to report. I grew up here in Santa Rosa and have a lot of historical material because my wife's family worked for the railroad, but still trying to get started here.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Joe. Joe, you there for a quick update? Not sure you can hear us. We'll move to David Grunman.
Hi, I'm Dave Grunman. I grew up as an Army bred, lived all over the United States, including a place called the Territory of Alaska, which is the place where I got my first training when I was about 13 or 14. It's a Lionel set. And we had permanent base housing, so we had a basement, and part of it became a layout, which within a year had to be torn down because they sent us to Washington, D.C. in July. And there we bought a house, and my my father decided, well, I seem to have an interest in modeling. Well, he knew that because I built plastic models all the time. Anyway, he bought me a Northern Pacific passenger set built by Gilbert, if you remember that company. And I started to get something a little more interesting because passenger trains just go here, go there. Well, you know, it's not a lot of stuff going on there. So I went out to the Army PX at Fort Belvoir, and they had a Great Northern Athearn train set complete. So I put it on layaway and paid it off in a couple of months and took it home, and I've been an HO and Great Northern ever since. So my layout is in kind of a converted bedroom upstairs, much to my wife's chagrin, but there it is. And I modeled in the 50s because I can get away with both steam and these early diesel. So I have to be careful about some of the rolling stock I have because some of it is not in the 60s. But one person told me one time that if you like later diesels or very early steam, well, some nights you run early stuff and some nights you run late stuff because in reality, railroads don't actually change. You know, the same places, same stations, things like that. So that's what I have.
Cool. Thank you, Dave. John Schmidt.
So I grew up in Mobile, which is why you'll see an unusual amount of GM&O cars on my Nicasio Northern Railroad. Nicasio is an HO Pike, is in a 15 by 22 foot area under the garage. It's what I call 4 R's railroading, rural retail railroading. 1929, all steam, runs from the bay up to the woods. And it's built for operation. You guys, some of you guys have been out there to operate. Wanted to echo what Ed had said earlier. The convention has been actually a very good experience. I was in the background on the convention doing some Zoom work, and I'm working on the new convention, also doing some Zoom work and recording, and find that just fascinating. I've got a show and tell later on, so I'll pass for now.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Mike O'Dorney, are you there? I see a picture that Mike's perhaps listening in, and Dave Grenier may be our last. Dave?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Yeah, Dave Grenier. I'm down here in Fresno. I'm visiting in from Daylight Division. Chris already showed you my handiwork. I'm the PCR webmaster. I'm doing the Anna Marie 2021 website, and that's pretty much my focus right now until the convention's over. I'm another New Englander transplant from Biddeford, Maine.
Good Lord.
And I
Wow.
model Boston and Maine. If I model, I don't have a model railroad. I just do websites. But if I had one, I'd do Boston and Maine, Maine Central, Bangor and Aroostook.
Central Vermont?
So
I didn't
I
hear
have a
you mention-
CV engine.
Okay,
I
there you
have
go.
an engine and a caboose.
Yeah, we have
I
a
can do
couple.
about 14 different railroads with engine and caboose, 14 different railroads from New England.
Cool. Well, we're well represented.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thanks,
So, we're about at the top of the hour. We've got some really exciting show and tell coming up. I think most people expect a call like this to not last longer than 90 minutes. We all have things to do. So there's 5 or 6 presenters, and I'm going to say we're going to try to keep it to 5 minutes each or less. So we'll try to get you out of here at 12:30 if that works for everybody. And I think if we keep it moving, we can get everybody in, and it's some great content. And I'm going to suggest that we go in the order by which people volunteered to show and tell. John Huckabee, I think, was the first to volunteer. So John, you've got the floor to show or share your screen or whatever's easiest for you.
Okay, this kind of lies in between a fairy tale and a sea story, if those remember what those were. Yeah, good. Back in the old days, during the Depression, the big railroads found it not profitable to deliver LCL loads to faraway places. So they turned it over to the short lines, and they gave them an old hand-me-down engine. But they said, well, we can't give you any rolling stock, but you can go through our junk pile and take all the damaged cars and do what you want to with them. So a couple of the short line people made some short line cars. These are LCLs. This one happens to be a freight. There's a freight in there. This is the cattle car and the box car. And then these were half box cars and half cattle cars. And the Railroad Association wanted to know what they were called, and they were called cat boxes. So the dispatcher would give the engineer an order. He says, well, take that cat box up to Glen Ellen and dump it. Yeah, that's it, guys. Story and photos over with.
You got 3 more minutes, though. No, I'm joking.
Well,
No,
I got a lot more stuff. I could go on all day.
no. That was good. What we'd rather do is keep having you come back. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So, John, thank you for
Put
that.
me on the list for next time.
Please, we will. Even though I'm your moderator, I was second to volunteer, so I'll go next. And I made a little PowerPoint, so let's see if we can get that going. Share screen. Yeah, this is my desktop. Let me just take a second here to. Everyone recognize my desktop?
Some guy I used to know.
Some guy from
Alright.
back east somewhere.
So I had this teed up and there we go. Didn't tee up as well as I saw it. Okay. Yes, we do. Okay, here we are, finally. So I talked about our Central Vermont layout. A recent project is we've been making a lot of realistic looking signs. I think this is interesting. Some of the things I'm going to say may be helpful, maybe not. We were searching for signage for actual businesses that we were modeling from the era, and actually to try to make some authentic billboards, but there's also some good inspiration for freelance modelers. And that is, in fact, the Yellow Pages. The historical Yellow Pages are a fantastic reference for all kinds of things. Many of us remember using them extensively, and it's pretty neat what, in hindsight, we can use the Yellow Pages for. I pulled out a couple of representative ads that I just thought were cool from my era and our area of Connecticut. There's something about the transition era, the fonts, the spacing, the slogans. It's quaint. There's a certain, I don't know, mood or gestalt that is very hard to make up and replicate. So I like going back to the source. And here's another couple of good examples. Beeb's Dairy is fantastic logo for milk. And then even as an inspiration for businesses to model, here I ran into this ball and roller bearing company. There's just really good stuff in the old Yellow Pages. Many of them are available. I've bought some on eBay before. Recently, our collaborator, Michael Latant, came up with the fact that the Library of Congress had archived the Connecticut, Norwich area Yellow Pages for the exact era that we're working on. And you can see some of the imagery. So you can go right in. It's free. It's fantastic. One of the things that's interesting, though, in our case, is it was microfiched originally. So everything, as you can probably see on your screen, is upside down and backwards. Okay. So it's a little bit of a challenge to work through. But look, here we are. This is actually one of our customers. It's upside down, it's backwards. And here's American Propane, which exists on our layout. And that revealed, all we knew is that American Propane existed on the layout. That revealed what I'm highlighting here, this really cool logo, right? I said, oh, I want to use that for a sign. The problem is, as you zoom in on it, it's fuzzy, right? However, it's super easy to do this, which I did to clean up and colorize the logo. And that's really what I'm focusing on today, some of the examples. Another example from the Yellow Pages, Dart and Bogue Lumber Company is a customer on our layout. We weren't really sure what to do with this blockhead in the kilt. It was a little odd and perhaps dated, but by extracting this logo here, we have this very crisp signage that we can use for the industry. So too, here's Ryan Company, a ready mix, same thing. We pulled it out. In this case, and Bill Kaufman was very helpful, we turned it into a billboard. So that's the before, and we cut and pasted the pieces to make a nice billboard to go by the business. American Screw is another major customer. This is their listing, not much to work with here, but there's this amazing eagle. You can see how fuzzy that is. We really wanted to integrate the eagle maybe as building signage. So there's also other resources. So I went to eBay and I found a vintage box for like $4 of American screws. Took a picture of the logo, extracted it, as you can see on the right, crystal clear and really great for building signage or whatever. This came from a magazine. It took a lot of work to clean this one up, but looking through print ads is also very interesting in other eBay miscellany. I wish I had the original photo. I pulled for Yantic Grain, one of our customers, the big Y logo off of a photo of a flour sack. This is not the matching logo. It's not the right sack. The picture I used, I couldn't find, I'm sorry to say. We have some meat packers. We wanted to use the famous from the era Armor Star logo. You can see this very fuzzy print ad. We pulled the logo out and made it crisp and usable. So too, Worthmore Feeds is a big brand that was appear in many farm supply and other stores. Actually, the photo of the weathered one is pretty cool. I wanted a clean one, and we were able to do this actually with pretty good ease. Robert Gare is a major paper mill on our layout. Found this photo with the signage so we could replicate the font properly. The way we do this is a program, but it's my favorite. It's called Paint S. It's for dummies, no problem. It's free as far as I know, or it might be one of these $3 or $4 apps. And what you can do, and I'll show you a quick example and then we'll move on. This is a logo that we found from the era for our power plant, Connecticut Light and Power. It cut and paste right into the program, but it's not very clear, you can see. As you zoom in here, you can see these artifacts and these places where the coloring is a little bit weird. So in just a couple of steps, first of all, you use a tool to fill in all the black to make it black. So we go from here to here very quickly with one click. Here also, you can see the shadow. We fill it in with white, and before you know it, it's cleaned up. I drew some new curves that I point to here in black, and suddenly you've got a logo that's pretty workable, particularly when you think about it in HO scale. That's all I have, and we look forward to seeing you at Sill's Restaurant, which looks like a great place. That's all I got. Next on the list, Bill Kaufman was a third volunteer. Bill, we good to go? Are you muted, Bill?
Mute. What I need is for somebody to tell me how to get, I've got a PowerPoint, but how do I get, how do I take over the screen here?
In the dead center bottom of your screen, is there a green arrow button that you can click on called share screen?
Yes.
Click, do it.
All right, there's the one I want. Aha!
You've done it, you've done it.
Good enough. All right, let me just tell this story. Oh, slide. Let me go through the slideshow from the beginning. All right. Thames Shipyard. By the way, that's pronounced properly for New England. It is not proper for. And we all started with Paul. This is Paul's layout. We're wandering around and Paul says, I'm looking for building for the Thames Shipyard. And I'm saying, what the hell is that all about? And so I got started on all of this. And I realized that it really was an extended version of something that Jim Providenza and I used to do called Meatball Scenery. Meatball Scenery comes from the MASH movie. They're talking about meatball surgery and everybody gets out. But this is very simple. The whole idea of this is a meatball mantra. If you put something on your layout and you like it, you should put some more on because it worked, right? If you don't like it, Well, then you put some more on so it doesn't happen anymore. We got interested again, as I said, in Paul's Thames shipyard, because there's the Central Vermont Railroad. It's going right up the beside the railroad, and it is a siding services the actual Thames shipyard. So the buildings that we are interested in, and if you look on the far left side, you can see some of the remains of the trackage. But the buildings that we are interested in are this one, which is just as big and ugly and nasty as looking at. It's a machine shop. It's wonderful. I love it. It's really ugly. This is a very generic building, almost no use to anybody, but it's there. I really like this head house, which is the, it leads out to Marine Railway and all that sort of thing. It has a very nice smokestack connected to a boiler house right next to it. And the other building I'm really interested in for doing this thing is there is a building you can't see back there. That's where the Blue Arrow goes. All right. And there is also the whole notion of, oh boy, we have got clutter. This is put some more on clutter. Now, this is our very generic house. As it happens, I had floating around, I have no idea why I had it, a pretty generic looking building. The only problem with my generic looking building is it needs a door, and that makes it awfully generic, and I'll go looking for a door. This is the head house. This is the street side of this. This is just wonderful. I mean, I love that sign. There's enough clutter all through the face of this stuff. This is just wonderful. This is the river side. This is the side that really counts. This is down here is where the Marine shipyard, or the Marine Railway worked, and it came up and on, and all of that. It just, and it is a really wonderful and ugly looking building. Fortunately for us, somebody, and it wasn't me, did lovely drawings. And when they did lovely drawings, they put an elevation on. They let it know how big it is, so that I could use this scale to get a lot of sizes and color, sizes and how big is this thing. It was wonderful. This is, oh, by the way, all of that material was from the Library of Congress. Somebody mentioned that the Library of Congress was a source. And so that was terrific. Now, I already owned this building, except it didn't have the brass pipe, but with a brass pipe in a stack, it looks as good as anything might look like for a boiler house. So this side is good. I've got my picture is right on top of where I wanted to point to, but over here on the far right, if you can't see it, is where the boiler house is. This is the back of the, we had, I tried, the other side is a lot funkier. This side, I just carved the little spaces out and put the windows in. The other side, I kept trying to line it up, and I've got all kinds of lines, and it really didn't work worth a darn. But this side is good. And this is the end of it, but it has problems too. The big problem is that the top needs a landing and stairs. You can walk out that door and it is going to be a nasty surprise. Not much better downstairs either. You need to walk out, and I need to put a dry place to put your feet on. This is the beginning of the machine shop. That's that other one that I was pointing at. That is about as ugly looking a building. I love that. That is just wonderful. And here's the other side of it. This is the bay side of it. You can see it says machine shop on it. So we got as far as making up a mock-up for the end of the, so I could put that on the layout. This is the building that I couldn't see, so I just cobbled together something with the DPM parts. This is the old design preservation module parts, put them together, put a platform on it. I realized the roof is wrong, but I don't have a good picture of the roof, so it's going to go with this roof for a while. And this is what it looks like when I put it all together. This, we've got, we've carved it out. We've taken, the railroad goes by it. Down here is, in front is the ocean eventually when it gets painted in. And so that's where we are. Here's the central of Vermont, and that's the whole ball of wax, Paul.
Yeah, beautifully done. And you didn't talk much about the beach that you've been carving. It's really cool. So, yeah, well done. Thank you, Bill.
Sure. Anybody wants, any questions about it, we'll deal with the questions.
And I suspect you probably unshare your screen. Perfect. And then we'll keep moving on. Next to volunteer was John Schmidt.
Okay, guys, let me do a share here. There we are. Let me clean it up a little bit. This is just my latest building project. All right, why isn't that moving? That's why it's not moving. So this is the town of Nicasio on the Nicasio Northern, and if you want to be sure that there's clues that this is a freelance railroad, Nicasio out in Marin County never had a railroad, so totally fictional. But the latest project that I put on it is the Nicasio Fruit Company. This is the image of it on my workbench with various pieces around. But this was a Campbell kit and that I had sitting around, and it does not want to move here. There we go. So it's a Campbell produce shed that took me about 3 or 4 months to put together, but that's obviously a part-time issue. So Nicasio Fruit Company, going to be a big fruit shipper. I've added in this little produce store at the end to add some human interest. These boxes here, the kit comes with something like 50 pre-cut fruit boxes, i.e. they're just small sections of wood. So I went out to the web and found a fruit label that would be appropriate. It's actually for a fruit company in the Central Valley with a nice little lady on it, and it's for apples. And then I went out to the web to find a picture of apples. So each one of these boxes has got a picture of the apple on top of it. Here's pictures of it on the layout. I also went out to the web to find pictures of the fruit crates. Typically you see a lot of these stacked up fruit crates. So I went out and found them, wrapped some balsa, wrapped some of these pictures around balsa and stuck it on there. So make a long story short, this is going to be an active shipper on the railroad, and had a lot of fun doing it. And one of these days I'll put some scenery around it. So there's one more picture of it.
And John, there's something going on upstairs in the office there, is there not? That
yeah, the question, I was asked the question earlier about, okay, what's in the cans? And I said, well, that's not an office, that's a distillery. So what's in the cans is Applejack. So, but don't tell anybody.
That's why I was afraid to mention it. Yeah, lovely. Beautiful model. Also, the backdrop looks terrific, John.
Yeah, that's not mine. That's Robert Steele's work. And as I put the mountains back in, I'll ask Robert to come back. He's already said he would come out and do the work on that. So anyway.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, John. Next up, Jim Providenza.
Okay, let's share a screen. Share. Okay, we should have, if we're doing this correctly. Come on. Okay, hopefully we've got some New London Northern places on what's the CV and NCA. That's modeling South Coventry, Connecticut, and Munson, Massachusetts on Paul Weiss's Central Vermont and Northern California. Yeah. And so here we are. This is on the property, September 2019. And Paul and I were back there for the regional, for the convention of the Central Vermont Railroad Historical Society. And we spent our time looking at places on the railroad, taking copious amounts of pictures. It's a residence at this time, but the railroad is still there. In the far distance, you see at the edge on the track, a little bit of brown and a shadow, and that's one of the two bridges that the station is on either side of the station as the river runs around. So in scratch building this building, I made a styrene core and then a styrene brick sheet overlay, Tichy windows and doors. Here's what it looked like under construction. And it's really interesting because I started off as the New London Northern Railroad was the predecessor railroad for the part of the railroad that we're modeling from New London up through Palmer, Massachusetts. And there was a distinctive series of stations, brick construction, with the stone headers and stuff for the windows, 6/6 double hung windows. And they show up in 3 or 4 different places in at least 2 of the stations that we're modeling. So here's a photo from the Central Vermont in color by Morning Sun Books, published by them. Here's what the station looks like on the model. Photos of the photo backdrop is trees taken at the time that Seth Newman and I went in early May, a couple of years before this. And so that it turns out, that's the era at the time that we're modeling. This is one of the 2 bridges, very interesting. And this is a kit bash of an old Bachman or Plasticville or somebody's sort of bridge to make it look much more representative of what the prototype was. And here's Munson, Massachusetts in 1955. Now it's very much a coincidence that the photograph of the station cuts off the left-hand edge and the rear portion of the model or of the station, because on the model we have to do exactly the same thing because of the width of the area that we have. So here's what the station looks like having been modeled. You'll note the similarities to the station at South Coventry, but also some differences. Here it has the original bay window. The bay window on the South Coventry station has clearly been rebuilt. And they don't go all the way to the ground. And here you can see the brick, or the stone foundation, the interesting way of steps, stairs, and small platforms. Eventually we'll come along and get the rest of the scenery in there. In each case, the station sort of bookends, interesting things. At South Coventry, it was these 2 very different bridges on either side, one of which you've seen a picture of. Here for the Munson station, it bookends Squires Cole. We knew about Squires Cole. We searched it out, and Paul and I went in wandering around, and the coal facility had long since been torn down. And it's a home improvement and fuel oil place at this point. And they had these 2 Polaroid pictures under the glass of the front counter. And they took them out and let us take pictures of them. I used the photo on the left, because it was almost able to be taken dead on, and I converted it to a JPEG that I could manipulate in Word to get to the same size as HO scale, and I used those palettes that you see at the bottom. Common palettes are about 4 feet, square, or 4 feet by such and such. But in this case, we took a 4-foot measurement, and this is what it ends up under construction looking like. This I borrowed off the internet. So somebody wants to sell this thing, nice beaten up signs. Well, we just need the image. Thank you very much. And it shows up in the upper left below the extension of the head house on the coal tipple there. And then the truck in the front, thanks to Bill Kaufman, we took the sign off of a current Squires and Company truck that Paul and I took pictures of, reduced it down, converted it, changed the telephone numbers, changed some of the wording to backdate it a bit to coal and heating oil, made it into decals and applied it to the truck. So looking to the left, this is how Munson is shaping up. Over on the right, in the distance there is the depot. And then just a quick note about resources, besides actually going there and taking pictures, because for example, we could get pictures of South Coventry, but the Munson depot is long gone. Books on the Central Vermont, you saw some pictures from the Central Vermont. The CV, Central Vermont Railroad and Historical Society magazine, The Ambassador, has all sorts of stuff, just like any historical society magazine does. Members with access to or knowledge of or memories of things you're trying to discover, maps and things they'll provide, plans that they've drawn, discussions of how things were laid out. The railroad company engineering maps or track maps, Sanborn maps. Google Earth was wonderful. Paul had done a tremendous amount of work laying out where we would look at and things like that. But also with Google Earth, you can measure existing buildings, and they have a little measuring tool. So we were able to, measure some of these things to confirm dimensions or to look at different things. Just generally the internet, because of, I needed to go get a sign, Internet Library of Congress, other sorts of resources. So, this is what has so far gotten us to, these particular stations for this particular part of the railroad. And that's that.
Excellent, Jim. Can't thank you enough. It's 12:30. People are starting to look at the exit, but we have some add-ons, and you guys tell me if we could do, maybe a minute or less for each of 3 of you, and obviously thrilled next time to give you a prime spot. Dave Crociera, you said you had something. Can you take a quick minute for what you have? You might be muted, Dave.
It takes me about a minute to set it up, so I probably should pass.
Well, we can circle back. Why don't we decide at the end? Ron?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, well, what I have here is pretty quick. I have a show and then a tell. Anyone who's been to my layout has seen that I have a lot of automobiles. And these are some that I come across recently from Oxford. It's an English company, and they sell for about $10 or $11. And I'm really impressed with the quality and the finish of them. This one happens, can you see it there? This is a 51 Oldsmobile. And there's a 47 DeSoto with a luggage rack on the top.
Oh, nice.
And this is my favorite, a 55 Buick. And I like these cars because take them out of their box and they're ready to put on the layout. You don't have to do anything with them. And they look good, so I put them at the front. And then the less detailed cars, I put at the back, so they're not as noticeable. And the only car that was different that I actually had to do something with was this Pontiac, 54 Pontiac. They had two-toned it and instead of the roof being all one color, it was like a wide stripe down the center. So I mixed up some more paint and painted the entire roof. And then also the side frames around the windows, they made it look like it was chrome, where in fact they were painted. So I touched up the paint, but that was pretty minor. Now my tail is a cautionary tail. The other day here, just last week, I was running my little Heisler, and I had scenery on the side where I use the Woodland Scenics foliage. Well, one of those had come loose and rolled down against the track, and it got caught up in the linkage. And I thought, oh, how am I going to get this out of there? Well, it took me quite a while with little tweezers and little scissors, and eventually I was able to do that. But my caution is, if you have that on your layout, make sure it's well glued down. Don't let it get near the tracks, particularly if you have steam locomotives with all that rod action. So that's about all I have.
Great tip. Thank you for that. And David Norris, I think you had a quickie for us.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Yes, I was doing shipping containers. That was basically what I did was I went on the internet, or also I got some of these drawings here of, that's a couple of 40 footers. There's another couple of K-line 40 footers. And what I did was there was also plans that showed these here, which are, that's not double stack. Somebody put two containers side by side and says, that's not double stack. Oh, so he puts two more containers on top of it, says, there's what you want. Says, no. Anyway, what I did was I have those, these originals here. There's two different K lines on top of, let's see, J and J on the bottom there on one side. And what, it says TikTok on the other side. I don't know. And so I sort of did some copy and pasting, and I made a plan there for one of the K lines and a J&J container on the bottom, and then there's the other K line and TikTok right down below it. But of course, you go on the internet, you got all kinds of other ones. Like I have this plan for this evergreen double stacks, and here's the finished product right there. What all these are just basically, let's see, here we go. Now we're cooking with diesel fuel. What I do is just basically took two pieces of plywood. It's supposed to be a couple of 1/2 inch. I happen to have some 5/8 and some 3/8. I glued them together, and then I run them on a saw there to saw them so they would be the exact same size as this K line here, and there's a wooden form there, and I could just put them on there and glue them on there, and the finished product would be like these here. These are two different heights of containers, and of course that does not give you as fine a detail as using plastic ones. Like, but of course you take this apart there and try to put them back together. But anyway, one of the reasons I made these ones on wood there, because they're all one piece, and you can put these in a stack well car, and they're not gonna, one container is not gonna fall off the other. So that's been my project, the latest one. And so anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. And so anyway, I'll let you turn it over to the next guy with a show and tell.
Fantastic. I don't think there is an next guy, right? So that wraps up our formal agenda. Thank you. Maybe. Anybody else have last minute add-ons? Thank you, everybody, for joining. You'll hear more from us. Thank you to the Red staff Sorry, Redwood Empire Division. We like that better.
RED.
Either way, you know who you are. Thank you. We appreciate it. And we'll see you soon. Goodbye, everybody.